Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Dumb Jocks podcast, everybody. We are here with, man, I can't even tell you, somebody great here. I'm trying to get you guys ready. All right, if you ever had wanted to make some actual money, this is the person you want to be listening in. All right, so we are here, guys. Welcome to the Dumb Jocks podcast. We are here giving you guys a little bit of insight from just a couple of dumb jocks, right? And if you guys want to watch us live, as always, you can check us out from rumble.com. Come check us out over there. Or you can join the locker room where you get a little bit of the behind the scenes and you'll be able to get a little more access into how to really live the life of an athlete outside of the game, right? But with no further ado, we've got the guy, the one, the only, the Jägermeister. He was just here, a finalist, was on the table. I was there watching him live on ESPN and looking at the cameras on him at the World Series of Poker. We have him here, Yegor Moroz. Did I say that correctly? Moroz. Even better. Yegor Moroz. Perfect. Everybody, let's give it up for Yegor today.
Welcome in, my friend.
Good to be here. Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I'm glad we were able to have you. And obviously, this wouldn't have happened without the exceptional co-host, my guy here, the big stove, keeping things hot, ready for you, Anthony Stover.
Trying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm excited about today. Yeggs has been a good friend of mine for over a decade now.
Long time.
And I'm happy that we're able to bring him in today.
Yeah, man. I am as well. Because there's not a lot of times that you get to really speak to somebody who's been at the high level of these different gambling things, right? You might be able to just, if you're a friend, you get to hear what they're thinking every now and then, but it's not too often that you get a really deep insight into what they're thinking and how they really make it to those levels. So I'm really excited that we're able to have you here today, man. So I guess we'll start it off from the beginning. You know, like as a child, where did you grow up? Where were you born?
So I was born in Belarus, which is like next to Russia, Ukraine, and Poland. And at the age of 5, moved to England for a year, back to Belarus for a bit, and then over to the States, where I lived in Illinois for a few years, Florida most of my life. And that is kind of where I sort of got my beginnings in poker in college, playing online on Full Tilt and Poker Stars. Freshman year in college, just playing like free rolls, $1-2 tournaments, whatever. Yeah. Losing consistently for a while.
Yeah.
And then started to get better. Then met some friends that actually were taking it a bit more seriously. I met my friend Nick Agostino, who's already crushing it, by sophomore year of college. I think I was playing like 5-10 at that time, which is pretty high stakes for a college kid. And I was learning to play poker locally as well, live cash in Daytona Beach. And it was hilarious. Like back then, it was $100 max buy-in limits across the stakes. So it was 1-2 max buy-in $100. You move up 2-5 max buy-in $100. Then you think you're hot shit. 5-10 max buy-in $100. And if you know anything about poker, those limits are so ridiculous. Even for 1-2, that's super short. It's 50 big blinds, and with 5-10, it's 10 big blinds, and basically you just go all in. And I'll never forget. So I was like kind of grinding the 1-2 games in Daytona Beach, and I was like, I've made a little bit of money. I'm gonna like move up. I'm gonna play some 2-5. And I remember this younger guy I was playing with. He's like, I had some like Nautica watch on or something. He's like, dude, if they see that watch, they're gonna tear you up, man. And it was so funny.
Oh my god!
It's the same stakes. It's the same stakes, and like, I mean, you're shallower and you go in quicker and whatever, and it's more aggressive. But
holy,
it was comical. But yeah, most of the time I came in playing online, and and then eventually built up a bankroll, and some years later started coming out to Vegas for the World Series of Poker. My first time out here was 2010. I came with my college roommates. Drove across the country with Joey Weissman and Nelson Tang and 2 of my close college buddies. And then we met up in the summer with Trevor and Nick and our buddy Jason. And we played the World Series of Poker,
Yeah. That's a crazy experience, man. It's like you gave us so much info in just that quick little span. Like
hit a lot of bases quick.
Oh my gosh, and I love it. Right, you're really running through it, and that's the way that we kind of want to give our audience, get them up to speed. But for the people who have nothing to know about like gambling or even poker, can you give us the a quick little, let's say explanation on 1, 2, 2 5s, 5 10s? What are you actually saying is happening when you give those numbers out?
Yeah, so simply put, in a poker game, there are blinds, and the first number is a small blind, the second number is the big blind, and basically that is going to be the amount of money that each player, there's going to be a player that's going to put in the small blind, then a big blind, and it's going to rotate a position every hand. So basically that way, there's someone always that's involved or there's some money involved, and you can't just like sit around waiting for aces, kind of like simply put.
Yeah.
And then as the blinds increase, the buy-ins increase, et cetera. So let's say an average buy-in for 1-2 is 300, an average buy-in for 2-5 is 1,000, an average buy-in for 5-10, let's say, is 1,500 to 2,500, 3,000, something like that.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. And that makes sense for a novice coming in, right? Once you get higher into that, obviously you have more risk, but you get a better chance to make more money.
Yeah. I actually only have any clue what you're talking about because I look at your Instagram page all the time when you're playing. And I just see numbers. Exactly.
I don't know what this means, but
yeah,
it looks exciting.
No, it took me about 3 months, but eventually I caught on and I was like, okay, now I know what's going on.
No, it definitely can be a whole nother language. It's like looking at calculus. And that's where it's like, quite honestly, one of the things that caught me, I don't know if the camera was still on me at that point, but my mouth actually dropped open. You said you're from Belarus. Like that's where you're born.
Sir. I was born there. My whole family was born there. All my relatives were born there. Most of them are still there, for the exception of aunt, uncle, and cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And they've kind of like some cousins have traveled a little bit, but like for most of my life, everyone's been in Belarus except for my immediate family, and then one aunt, uncle, and cousin who were in Germany.
Wow. And how long did you live there before you moved on to your next, transitioning point?
So I was there until I was 5,
Uh-huh.
and then my dad got a job at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, and we lived there for about 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah.
Which was a really cool experience because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And that actually brought in a lot of international graduate students and postdocs. And it was such a cool experience growing up. So the community we lived in was like a college campus community, and it was almost entirely international students. And there were like no white people.
Oh, wow.
And it was like actually. And I went to a school called Martin Luther King Elementary. And it was not in any special area town. And it was crazy that like that elementary school offered so many languages. There's Japanese, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, French. Like
what? The school offered it
because there were so many international students.
True.
They're like, well, we want our kids to continue the language.
Yeah.
And I remember for like UN Day and Flag Day, there was like one of our bigger holidays in the school. And there was I want to say there was something like 60 or 80 countries that were represented in our elementary school.
That's crazy.
Which is bonkers. And it wasn't that big of a school.
Holy,
like,
that is crazy.
Yeah, so
this is in Champaign.
This was in Urbana, but it was Urbana-Champaign. It's the same area. And yeah, it was really cool growing up. And we just like got so much exposure to different cultures. And it was really a unique experience, and all we would do was go to school, come back, drop our backpacks off, and go out and play. And it was rad because in that development, that community, there was a bunch of playgrounds directly behind my apartment building. There was what was called the Big Hill, which was like the local hill that all the kids would go sledding on in the winter.
Yeah.
There was all these like trees and forests and whatever, and it was just like an adventure. There's apple orchards further down. Like it was a very outdoorsy and like kind of like cultural experience in the middle of nowhere. Because some of my closest friends, I had Anton, who's a Russian kid, I had David Song, who's Chinese, I had Tong, who's Chinese, Dongjin, who's Korean, Udara, who was from Sri Lanka. There's a bunch of kids. There were so many, and like I had one of my other really close friends I met, and I think in 3rd or 4th grade, Chris Fosty. He was like my only white friend.
Wow.
Literally,
in Illinois.
Illinois of all places.
Oh my God.
All of my friends were international, and it was cool. It was like, I had my friend Dongjin, his mom would make him a little lunchbox with like sushi sometimes.
Mm.
And everyone was like, that's so weird. What is that? Like but like looking back on it, like that is the coolest thing. And the
ever.
best mom is like, your mom was making you fresh rolls in the morning.
Like, oh
Like,
my God. That's a grand experience.
Unreal.
That's like royalty almost.
That's nuts.
And everybody was super poor. It was obviously, we're all international. Salaries are tiny. We're in the middle of Illinois, whatever. But like, that was it. That was.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. And that had to be like, you could tell me, you know, like, how did that impact your, let's say, upbringing, right? And who you became as a person versus other people who just grew up actually in the middle of nowhere, uncultured places in Illinois, right? That had, I could tell you're sitting here with your legs crossed, right? I could just tell by the distinguished smile. You've got more culture than a lot of the people that come from Illinois, bro. So, like, from your perspective, like, how did that impact, you know, you growing up and things of that nature?
Now that you mention it, I think that obviously had a massive impact, but I think that was really the beginning of kind of teaching me acceptance and sparking a curiosity about different people and different cultures. And like it, you know, there's a lot of different cuisines, a lot of weird smells floating around that area, and having, you know, different friends of different cultures. Like, dude, I remember that same friend, Dongjen, his mom would sometimes make him kimchi. And like, dude, when you're 8,
that doesn't smell great.
Not ready. No, I wasn't ready.
Fermented anything.
Yeah, but like you get exposure to that, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. And having so many different like experiences like that, but at the core, you know, like these are good people. These are like good, honest people, and everyone's really nice and accepting. And I think it taught me to be accepting of people.
That's
and
dope.
kind of just being open to different experiences. And I think that's kind of where that all started. I think that really like helped form like my approach and mindset to things and people that are different than myself.
That makes total sense, man. I can really appreciate that, and I can make sense into how you're able to stay so stoic, right? You know, keep your face and not really give off as many, let's say, tells when you're playing your game, because you know you really don't have the feeling of this person's different. You don't really feel anything when you're playing with these people. They're just people, just like how we should all feel each other. Right. You know, oftentimes those different demographics, races, whatever we want to call them, come into play, and people have no idea how to judge somebody that they're next to, and they often put a cultural bias towards it. But you, just in the way that you grew up, you naturally had a little edge with coming into that, man. So that's actually pretty awesome. You know, I appreciate you for sharing that a little bit. And that seems like after Illinois, where was the next place that you moved to before you kind of like got to your next
enough, I moved, my dad got a job at the University of Florida, and we moved to a little town called Palm Coast in Northeast Florida. And it was like almost the opposite of that, where it was very like suburbia, white, and like lack of that, that international culture. And you know, it was still cool. There's a lot of other really great things about Florida. I made a lot of great connections, a lot of great friends, and I hold like my middle school, like I moved there halfway through 5th grade, but I really hold dear to me my middle school and high school experiences there, because we had just had so much fun. And it was like, I think the lack of culture and stuff to do kind of created space for different, like it kind of out of necessity pushed you to like make your own fun, create deeper bonds, because there was nothing else to do but to hang out. And just like, you know, in middle school, like a couple of my closest buddies and I, we were like the Palm Coast walkers, because before we could drive, we would just like walk everywhere, or scooter everywhere. And then later in high school, you know, you get your driver's license, you drive around, but there's still not shit to do. So what do? Like, you hang out, you get together, you loiter outside of Steak and Shake and Denny's, or you go to the beach. And literally, those were the only 2 places that were open, I think, after like 9 or 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Steak and Shake and Denny's, and that was it. There was a few others. There was like a Sonny's barbecue and like a couple of other random like local like pizza joints or whatever, but nothing was open. There was nowhere for us to go. There were no clubs. There was no bars that we could frequent. It was just like, we're going to a friend's house, or we're going to a parking lot somewhere, or we're going out into the woods or out on the beach, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
And how old were you when you were living in Florida at this time?
This was from 5th and a half grade till through senior year of high school and then into college. So I must have been, gosh, like let's just say 12 until I was 25 through college.
Wow.
I overstayed college a little bit.
Hey, no.
I was 7 years more. I don't know.
Van Wilder over here.
Yeah, in ways.
Yeah, but it's a fun time. I don't blame you.
It was a fun time, and that was where the beginning of the poker journey began. I was in schools at the University of Florida, and I was living with some friends, and we were all getting increasingly more into poker. And I remember watching it on TV, watching the World Series of Poker, watching the main event coverage on ESPN.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, back then, I feel like right now they have an incredible product, but like that was the premier poker product. There was like Poker After Dark, which was really cool too. But it was like ESPN main event coverage.
Yeah, I remember
that was the thing.
Absolutely.
Because I remember when all the celebrities and like I remember Jordan Farmer was playing for the Lakers and he was in the tournament one year, and it was just huge on ESPN the coverage for those years.
Absolutely.
Every single day they were out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Ray Romano. It was Jason Alexander. There was a ton of overlap with Hollywood and that tournament in particular. And the coverage was great. And this was when online poker was exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And Full Tilt and Stars were the commercials everywhere. There was UFC sponsorships.
Yes.
It was a huge deal. And this was, mid 2000s into like 2010. And that's when we were all starting to play online. And I started making like a few thousand a month playing online tournaments. And I was like, this is so cool, but also this is so exciting. I could see like the ceiling for this job. And back then too, with Full Tilt, they were giving sponsorships and all kinds of things. Like if you could become a pro, I mean, they were paying you like 6 figures a year salary, paying you for your travel.
Wow.
But paying for buy-ins of tournaments, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was like, this is so exciting. And it captured my attention. There's nothing more I wanted to do. And then eventually that is where my attention went. It pulled away from school, and I found myself withdrawing from a semester, and then being like, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm like, come back, and then because I was close to finishing and kept bouncing around, and then eventually I kind of just like committed, and I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I left school eventually and pursued poker full time, and it was mostly online. Then 2010 was my first World Series of Poker. And then started coming out every summer after that. And then 2011 is when they called Black Friday. And essentially, they shut down online poker in the U.S.
Wait, what?
I remember this.
And this was a huge deal. And there's massive, massive fallout because this was not only affecting all the poker players that were actively playing, but all the pros, all the sponsors, like I said, like UFC was involved. There was commercials.
That's crazy.
It was insane, and it happened like overnight. And I remember one day, it was actually a friend who wasn't even involved in poker. Was like, I saw something, and it was like, nah, it can't be real. Like this is way too big.
Yeah.
And then I log in, and then I get a message from the Department of Justice, just like yada yada yada. This is under investigation. Basically, we're shutting it down. It was like kind of live for maybe another day or so, and then shut down. Everyone's funds were frozen.
Oh my God.
And it was just like everything came to a very abrupt screeching halt. And it was like, whoa, I just left school for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this actually created this mass exodus of so many poker players internationally to Mexico, Costa Rica, Canada, Europe, Australia, Thailand, wherever. And it was shocking. And basically, eventually, PokerStars bought the what Full Tilt was and kind of like made it right and paid people out. But for about a year, everyone's funds were just frozen. You didn't know. And it wasn't just Full Tilt and Stars. There's Ultimate Bet. There's Absolute Poker. There's a bunch of other sites that were just like done.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
Shuttered the doors and was just like, we're gonna figure it out.
Wow.
And it was a scary time, honestly. And then we still came out for the World Series of Poker. We still had a couple dollars, and a couple of our buddies were staking some of us, and we came out to play live and, did our best. But then most everyone that was taking it really seriously went overseas. Like a bunch of my close friends, Joey Weissman and Brian Shane, a few of these other guys, like they went to Costa Rica, Canada, wherever. And there were kind of ways around playing on other European sites and stuff. And we kind of like figured it out and made our way. But it was really tough.
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry, you were going to say?
No, I want you to continue. It sounds like it was really tough.
And then basically I was just now sputtering in Gainesville at that time because the booming the U.S. online industry just was destroyed overnight. And then was trying to figure it out, playing some live poker. By then the limits have been raised to more reasonable limits in Florida, so you can actually play like normal limits. Okay. Right around that time. And I was like, all my friends had gone. I wasn't in school anymore. I wasn't feeling called to do that. And I was like, what am I doing? I was like, all right, I guess I'm done here. And then I moved back to Palm Coast, moved in with my parents for all of 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, well, this is not happening.
Definitely not.
Everyone's going to die. Like, we were all going to drive each other up the wall. Thankfully, my friends Alyssa, Chuck, and John, who are some of my closest friends, grew up in high school, happened to live in a place with an extra room, moved in with them. That was super fun. And then I was kind of just like going to Daytona, playing cash, playing online, getting by. The cost of living then was super low. It's a small town, whatever. We were sharing like a 4-bedroom place, and I don't know what my rent was, maybe $500 or $600 a month. There's nowhere to spend money in Palm Coast.
Fair.
So like it was whatever. And then October of 2013, my friends Trevor and Nick hit me up and were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Nothing." And they're like, "Why don't you move out to Vegas with us?" They had already moved to Vegas a few months prior, and I was like, "All right." And then I I packed my car up. And then I want to say I had something like $1,600 and like credit cards, and drove across the country. And then we went on like a multi-week road trip. That was the beginning of they rented an RV and we drove through Cali, and it was just kind of like a welcome to
the West
Coast, this new chapter of life. And they asked me to drive the RV throughout the trip. It was like, I want to say it was like roughly 2 weeks.
Okay.
I agreed to that. And that was kind of like my way of contributing to the trip. And they had covered most of the cost of the RV and the gas and whatever.
Nice.
And I remember we stopped in San Fran. We decided to go out and go to the red light district, and we go to the strip club. And there's this beautiful redheaded woman named Barbie that I just fell in love with. And I dusted like 500 of my 1,600 bankroll at the strip club in San Francisco. Worth it. She was amazing. We had a great time. Super fun. And then we come down the coast. We go through LA. We come back to Vegas. And then in the course of the next couple of weeks, just like playing low stakes, I think like really early on, I won some like $200 buy-in Venetian daily tournament for like $2K, and that gave me some breathing room. And then I took like 6th and some 400 for like $4K, and then like 4th and something else for like 6 or 8. Mm-hmm. And then they used to have a big poker room at Caesars, kind of where Omni is now, and they used to have big tournament series, and they had a Winter Classic, and I chopped that for like $17K. And when I mean I chopped that, it's basically there's big pay jumps between first, second, and third. And we were all fairly close in chips, and we decided to basically split it evenly. And so I got, $17,000 for that tournament. And then I took second in a Venetian tournament for 20-some K. Basically, over the course of like 6 months, I ran super hot and made like 50K in tournament cashes. And I like had sold some action, whatever. Let's say I netted maybe like 25K that for myself.
Sure.
But for me, again, this is like unlimited money.
You're feeling now. Great. You're like Caesar.
Right before this, I go to Costa Rica with Joey, my friend Brian Shea. We go to Envision. This is an incredible festival in Uvita, Costa Rica, and come back re-energized and so excited. And around that time, our friends Trevor and Seth had found a big house in Southern Highlands.
Shout out to Seth.
Yeah, which was later, called the Zen House. And that was where the magic really began of the Vegas journey. And somehow we got this deal for a 5,000 square foot house for $5,000 a month with this big ass backyard with like tennis court, basketball court, big pool,
this
cabana
house was
with hot
ridiculous.
tub.
Yes, sir.
This is actually when I met the whole crew.
Yeah, and this is when we
awesome.
met Stove. Or Seth had introduced Stove to all of us, and they went to UCLA together.
Yeah.
And
Seth was my roommate at UCLA.
Okay,
Was
nice.
my boy. I remember when online shut down and everything like that, because Seth, when he was my roommate, he would always be running out. He'd be gone for 2 weeks just being in Vegas. Or then he would come back and he would lose it over the fact that everything was shut down. But then eventually he was like, you know what, I'm done running back and forth. And he told us that he got the house, and then we came out for the party.
yeah,
And it was all set in stone from there.
yeah, and that was honestly, I think, objectively speaking, so it was myself, Seth, our friend Joey, who's one of the original Gainesville Grindhouse friends, our friend Trevor, same. And then one of Seth's really close friends, Andrew Stern. And that was the beginning of the Vegas journey and the Seth's, the Zen House, like, chronicles, essentially, where it was 5 bachelors, you know, coming into Vegas and everyone kind of coming up. And it was just super cool to be able to have that experience and experience total freedom and really just, like, be a bachelor.
Right.
And we were just, it was like Seth had just come off the best summer of his life. He
was killing that.
He took second in a 1K for 280K and then took third in a 5K, which he got in to take third. There was a massive pot where he got, there's only 3 cards essentially that someone could hit to win the pot. And that was basically for the tournament. But he still another like 2 something. Basically, he had a $500,000 summer. His first summer out in Vegas.
First summer out in Vegas.
As a young lad, and then everyone else was kind of coming up in poker, and everyone was so excited to be here and start this new chapter. And we just like went out and just did. We would go to Lake Mead and go to Bond at Cosmo, which used to be a really cool, fun bar, kind of sort of near where the barbershop is now. Just made all these friends and had people over, and just like, I remember like waking up in like my torn off Ninja Turtle pajama pants, going outside and just like shooting around for a little bit, maybe smoking a J, going in the pool. We had 2 awesome dogs, Revis and Coco. Revis we got in Gainesville, who was like a pit Katalua lab mix, who was so smart and such a amazing dog, rest in peace. And we still have Coco, who's a golden, who's also just the sweetest, like biggest heart retriever you'll ever meet.
That's awesome.
And it was just like everything was coming together, and then things got chaotic. And then things got chaotic as I think the wheels kind of came off a little bit, but that's life. And then, you know, people started to kind of go their own different ways with girlfriends and different life choices. And Seth had a kid. And our neighbors were completely batshit crazy and literally made it their life's purpose to try and ruin our life, because I think they had a bad experience with the previous neighbors who were, I think, DJs or something. And they were like, we're not doing this again. And we're like, we're not taking any shit. And they would call like animal control on us for having the dogs not having the leash from the car to the door. Just like,
oh my God,
always hassling anyone that came to the house, like calling parking security on us constantly. There was no one on the parking, this big cul-de-sac before the development really started growing. It was like us, them, and an empty house.
That was over Southern Highlands, right?
Yes. Yeah, over in Tuscan Cliffs. And they were actually the ultimate downfall of the Zen House. I think we would have stayed at that house because it was such an amazing house. We had a great relationship with the landlord, Mike Mallon, who was also a poker fan, and he was a Big Brother contestant. He just like loved the lifestyle, and he loved us, and we loved him, and he was on our side, you know. And it was cool to know that he had our back through that whole experience with the neighbors. But it was just at some point it became really difficult of them. Just like it was this dark shadow hanging over us of just like there are people that hate you right next door, and then at some point because they hired a private investigator and they honestly hated us. And I would try to be like the liaison and come over and talk to them. And at some point, he's like, I went over there to ask him about something, and he's like, the private investigator advised I should get a gun and like pulled a gun out on me. And I was
No way.
all right. I'm going to go, like, whatever. And like, yeah, I was talking to his wife and he like charged the door and then whatever. And that's one thing. And he like flashed the gun and I was like, you know what? It's not worth it.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
And then, our lease was running up and, Seth was getting a new place he was pregnant with his daughter. And it was just time to kind of move on.
Shout out, Viv.
Yeah. It was a new transition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and I don't blame you, bro. You were dealing with the original Karen, right? Like, people thought they were dealing with Karens nowadays. Like you were dealing with that a decade ago. Yeah. That's
she had
crazy.
The perm hair ball thing. She was. I remember Seth. We were like having a little outdoor debate, and she's like, "You guys are so uneducated. You guys are scum." And she's like, when Seth was like, "Yeah," he's like, "When we all went to school." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I went to UCLA." She's like, "Yeah, public school." And it's just like, UCLA is one of the best schools in the country. And she's just like, ugh. Like, just uppity, just a terrible person. I remember when Seth's girlfriend at the time, Jeannie, was pregnant, she would yell at her while she was pregnant and be like, "We're going to call social services on you." And literally actively harass and yell at a pregnant woman. Like, just completely unhinged.
They're just bored and nothing better to do with their lives but to mess with you guys.
Yeah, I remember us laughing of like sometimes when they would have these blowups with us. I imagine they would go and have like that would be the one time they have hot sex. Like they get so worked up and they're like, "Oh, we got them good, didn't we?" And you're like, "Fuck them," whatever. And I was like, I mean, in a way, like good for them. That's the one thing that get them excited and worked up. Like find some excitement in your life.
Yeah, at least you were helping their life in some way.
Yeah.
Helping them to have some more joy.
Yeah.
We can't be mad at that. And one of the things that I looked up, like while we were kind of like doing a little bit of research, I noticed in at least your first 5 things, you kind of brought it up that you went into, you were top 10, right? You went on a little run.
In the tournament.
Yeah. And at least the first 5 that you started with.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I was not top. I was the opposite of top 10 throughout many portions of the tournament. But starting on day 5, when I picked up some heat, I became...
Oh, not this last one, but just overall different tournaments that you played in.
Yeah, at the beginning. Like from your first tournament that you ever got into. Like from the first ones that were ever documented.
The original run that you went on.
Oh, yeah. I had some success. And I mean... Tournaments are tough, are really tough. And, coming through that, I had a lot of success or a decent amount of success early. I blew through a lot of that money pretty quick. And then essentially I went broke. And then in 2016, I had like a few, it's a little bastard. So I was like struggling. And then 2016, there was a WSOP. And then we all got a big group house again, which coincidentally was Lamar Odom's old house.
Nice.
All the way in Green Valley Ranch, which was funny.
Shout out LO.
Was he there before he got rushed to the hospital? Because
I think it was literally the year before they found him at the Bunny Ranch or whatever.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was all out here.
Yeah.
We went in the attic and we found like fuzzy handcuffs and like chocolate lube, and we were like, "What the fuck was going on?"
How big were these handcuffs?
We see you, Chloe.
Yeah, they were, I mean, whatever. But that was a fun time too, and that was a fun summer house, and that was with Daryl Fish, Adam Levy, Joey again, my friend Andrew Stern. And that was a great time. So that summer, that WSOP, we're all grinding, and then essentially I was like not doing great, but kind of like, getting by. And then the main event came around. I was like, and then I fired like most of my bankroll in that tournament. The buy-in for the main event is $10,000. I want to say I had something like $4,500 to my name at that time with a bunch of credit card debt. And I took like 33% of myself or something like that, or 30, whatever. I put in like over $3K. And I remember like just being excited and feeling good about that year. So that I put in whatever, like 75% of my bankroll in that tournament.
Yeah.
That tournament, back then, you made the money like late or like towards the end of day 3. I had a good amount of chips approaching dinner break, and I was playing great poker, and I had some like insane bluff raises. There was a spot where I 5-bet all in ace-6 offsuit versus guy I was battling, and there was this moment where like this guy on my right, he and I were battling, clicking around, and as I'm going to muck, this other guy was a bunch just like, show the bluff, show the bluff. And as I'm going to throw my hand on the fold, I flip the hand over and I show the ace-6 suited bluff. Table goes nuts. There's this like Indian recreational players like, I'm totally outmatched. He was like, you guys are too good. And this guy's tilted. And that was a huge moment. I mean, that's a massive spot. We're like kind of approaching the money. I have all of myself, like not all, but I have most of my bankroll in this tournament. And so some hands later against this same guy, I get into a pot where he opens the button, I defend the big blind, 7-6, and this could be kind of, hand stuff that might not be relative to poker, but the flop comes king 6-4 or something like that. I check, he bets kind of big, and I just don't think he's doing that with a strong king. He's like, why would you bet so big on kind of a dry board? And then I just check shove like 30 big blinds, which is a lot at this point. So I think I had 40 to start the hand, and we're probably maybe like 2 or 3 hours out of the money. And we're about to go on dinner, like a few minutes before dinner, 15, whatever.
Yeah.
I check shove. It's a bluff. And he's deep in the tank. He's thinking. He goes, man, you play so screwy. I call. And he rolls over king 9 offsuit.
Wow.
And it just runs out brick. He wins the hand. I'm crippled. I have like not that many. I have 10 big blinds left. I shove. It folds down to me. I don't know, like cut off or something. I shove king 10 suited, ace 5 in the big blind calls, and I lose.
Wow.
And I remember walking back to my car, and like as this happens, this is literally like a hand or two before dinner break comes. So everyone coming out, rushing out, is so excited. They just made dinner break a day 3. They're maybe an hour or 2 out of the money, max 3, whatever. Everyone's thrilled, and I'm just like dizzy. I'm just like, what just happened? I just had a massive blow up.
Yeah.
I had a stack that I should never not cash with. I could have just folded every hand and made the money guaranteed. And that's so buy-in's 10K, min cash is 15,000. I'm at least getting a 6K return. And I remember going into my car, like out of breath. And I'm just like freaking out. Just like, what the f*** was that? What are you doing? Oh my God. Like, just like bugging the f*** out. Come home. I'm still in shock. Can't believe what I just did. I was like, I couldn't process anything. I just was like, I need to sleep this off. I just like go to bed at like 7:30, sleep for a few hours, and wake up the next morning. There's one more big Venetian tournament. There's an 1100. I was like, all right, you're professional. Get back on the saddle. What can you do? Pick yourself back up. So this is such short notice. I'm able to sell like 15% or 18% of this tournament. It's an 1100. I take like whatever 800 of myself. I go to play this tournament. At some point towards the end of the day, I get all in with kings versus ace queen, river ace, lose, and now I'm down to I think $650 in my checking account, and I'm broke, and I have literally probably like 10K in credit card debt. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I took a few days off, and I talked to my sister on the phone. She's like, you've been through harder time. You've been through everything. Like, you can get through this. And then I remember like thinking like, all right, what can I do? I have a few $100. How do I spin it back up? And at times we were living in Green Valley Ranch. There was a poker room at Green Valley Ranch Casino, and there was a 1-2 game there. So I take $300. I go to play there. The game is as soft as it could possibly be. It's just like a friendly local home game. It's just average age is probably like 50.
I was about to say you're playing with a bunch of old ladies.
Yeah, but it's fun. They're friendly. They're great. And I get it all in. I think with queens versus jacks or twos. Basically, they had 2 outs to hit. That was for not all of my money. That was for like 150 of my buy-in. I get 2 outed. I lose. I'm like, fuck. I'd already been playing for a few hours. I leave. So I'm down 150. Come back the next day. Same thing happens. I get it in with queen. I think it was jacks against twos. And then same deal for about 150. After a few hours, leave, down 150. I'm down to like $350. Go back the next day, win, and then I go on like a 14 session win streak, and I'm up like 3,500 playing 1-2 in like 2 weeks or something or whatever. Or it's probably like
that
3 weeks.
quickly,
Bro.
And I was like, okay, I can do this. I like paid off some credit card bills, paid my rent, and then grinded that 1-2 game at GVR for a while. And I love that game. I love the staff. I love the player pools. There's still people that I run into. So basically after COVID, that room got shut down, and everyone kind of congealed over to South Point. And I'd run into those players and see them over at Ari or whatever, and they're so nice. And it was a great game. And then eventually I rebuilt from there, and I had a nice little tournament score, I think at the very beginning of 2019, for like almost 20K, Venetian as well. And then that kind of like gave me the place to rebuild, pay off the credit cards, move up to 2.5, and then slowly started rebuilding. And then from that, around 2022, I would say, I came back to playing cash like full time. And then through a backing deal, I actually got coaching, and that was when things really changed for me. And shout out to Adrian, really changed my game and really like took me to the next level and helped me move from 2.5 into 5.10, and really like, I wouldn't be here now. And that coaching specifically, learning how to navigate deep stack play, because cash games, as I was kind of telling you guys earlier, and some of you guys earlier, is like you get to play deep stack, and like those lessons, those fundamentals, knowing how to pot control and navigate those pots, that's what helped me through the main event, because you play so deep so well, or so long. Like in that tournament, it's 2-hour levels, the blinds start low, they move so slow, and like you get to play deep stack poker. And then even when I got short stack, and then basically this year was day 3, the starting stack in this tournament on day 1 is 60,000 chips. I was down to 46,000 coming into my big blind on like level 4, or the third level of day 3.
this is just this past
This
one.
is this year. I was down to 8 big blinds on day 3 at one point. And then I got lucky on a big blind hand where Natasha Mercier opened. She had a bunch of chips, being super aggressive. I defended queen 8 off. Flop comes 8-8-7, 2 dimes. Dream flop.
There we go.
Trips. I mean, that's
He wins.
before I check, she bets. I check shove. So she bets 10K. I shove for 32K. She snap calls. She has jacks. I hold. And then I just kept taking like reshove spots with pairs and good, Broadway spots where I didn't think they could call, and kind of kept floating around. And there was one hand towards the end of that day. I think I had like 20 big blinds, and there's a recreational player that opens, and there's 3 calls. I look down at King Jack of spades in the big blind. I'm like, there's so much dead money. And this guy was opening all kinds of nonsense. I'm all in. And the first guy like calls quickly. I'm like, oh, everyone else folds, which is pretty good. There's all this dead money. I mean, basically, I'm like, if I win this hand, I'm almost tripling up. He rolls over 10s. And I remember just going like, jack me off, baby, jack me off. And it hits a king, and I win the hand, and it puts me up to like 260K. I'm trying to remember what the blinds were, but it was like close to 40 big blinds, like 30-something big blinds.
Yeah.
And and then I came into day 4. I played like one hand where I raised queen jack suit on the button, got a fold, and just cruised into the money. And then dinner break at that level, or that day, I had 10 big blinds coming back from dinner break. First hand, king jack off on the button again, shove, get called by 8s, win. And then I built up. I ended the day 4 with, from 150K on dinner, I ended the day with like 895, I want to say.
That's crazy.
Day 5 came in, really tough table. There was a Brit 5-10 reg that I knew, Nacho Barbero, great pro, just like, it was all pros. And was able to chip up a bit that day, just like before that table broke. Next table, later on, I found a double up where basically this other recreational guy opened big under the gun, defended king queen off. He bet big on the flop of queen 4 deuce, 2 hearts. I called, turn came a 5 offsuit, and he just overshoved like more than the pot. And I was like, I don't think you have a good hand here. Like, I don't think you're going to play aces or kings this way. Like, why would you? The board's not that scary. Call, and he had 10-9 of hearts. We fade it, we brick, and then I just like started running really well, where I wanted to flip ace king to eights pre-flop for like 20 bigs. I coolered somebody aces to ace king pre-flop for 30 bigs, and then I flopped kings full on king queen queen versus another guy who defended the big blind with queen 3 of hearts. Turn came a 7, river came a 3, completing a flush. He has a full house. We go full house to full house, stack him, and then before I know it, I'm one of the chip leaders of day 5, and then here comes back in the deep stack play, and then basically from day 5 on all the way basically into deep day 7, I had close to 100 big blinds, which is insane for a tournament.
That's insane.
Of all tournaments, the main event. And during that spin up on day 5, a bunch of friends started showing up. So we had a trip planned to Montana some time ago, and now they're all coming in. They're starting to trickle in. I had a rail of like, 8, maybe 10 people showing up. Joey and Seth and Daryl and my buddy James from the Shuffle Group from Las Vegas Shufflers. And as that was happening, it was so exciting to have friends that have like watched the poker journey, watched me go broke more than once. That I had gone broke after that 2016 story again, and be in this spot where I'm like stacking up chips in the main event,
yes,
where
sir.
I'm guaranteed a nice chunk of change already.
We got to be in there for one of those days. We came down. We were up on the pole for one of those days.
Yeah,
absolutely. Cheering you on, bro.
It was actually the first time I actually got to go into anything like that. I don't know about you, Keith.
No, so that definitely was my first time being in that environment. And man, we play basketball, right? So we definitely don't understand the environments and the energy. That was very similar. Yeah. When you get into it, I can just imagine what you felt with all the cameras and the lights around you. You're sitting at the table, the tension, the energy, it's all there. I felt it in the stands. So I can imagine what you felt. That had to be amazing. Feeling. Absolutely, man. You were the man in the arena that night. For sure.
Thanks to you guys. Thanks to you guys on the rails. Thanks to all the friends on the rail. They were the ones that created that space. And honestly, like I said, it started day 5. You guys came in day 8.
Yeah,
day 8. Was
I remember when we got there, it was late on day 8, and all the boys looked like they'd been awake for 4 days straight. They were all exhausted with all the beer and pizza and everything down there, but that they were there from the moment that you showed up to the moment that you walked out every single day.
Man, it meant the world to me. Dude, Seth, on day 6, Seth was the first person there. Like, I play started at 12. He was there maybe like 12:30 on the rail. This is before the arena. You're behind kind of like the ropes, and the table's like, he could have been, 20, 30 feet away. He can't even see what's going on, but he was fucking there.
Yes, sir.
And everyone else started showing up, and we had a rail, and they were there all day 6, off on the ropes. And then my friend Nick came in with his wife, Bander, and that was such a cool moment too. Is there was like, as the people were coming in, the rail was building. Basically, the last hand of day 6, there's a hand where I stack somebody. And my other friend, Jesse Capps, who's in the tournament as well, at the same table, he was like calling the hand. I was like almost like almost like too nervous. And then I win the hand, and then I just get to run over to them, and the cameras are there, and I just jump into their arms, screaming and jumping and whatever. It's like, that is what I've always dreamed of, not only in the poker sense of like, we're talking about like getting into poker, watching it on ESPN, the main event stuff. And also having seen a few of my friends make WSOP final tables, I got to be on the other side of that, how special that is, getting to live that myself, but also being into sports growing up of like, and watching sports, still watching sports, of like getting to be in that mix of when you're actually like surrounded by your teammates, your fans, whatever, in a huge moment of going and getting to celebrate with them. And it was exactly that. And it was
It's like they're hitting a buzzer beater shot.
It was exactly like that. Just like, then you run in and you go and celebrate, and the cameras are there, and it was so cool to get to experience that. And that was again created by the support and of the friends and the rail, and getting to have that experience magnified on day 7 when we actually got to be put into the arena, into the featured tables, and they're right there. And I was at lunch earlier with my friend Lance, and there was a few spots where you could, like, he was saying how you could tell like the rail was getting in the heads of the other players.
Yeah.
And there was one hand in particular I remember was before, I want to say dinner break on day 7. There was a guy that I had 3-bet previously, and the rail's chanting my name and talking shit to the players. And there's a hand. This is the stone last hand before dinner break, and this is a guy I had 3-bet previously. He opens. I look down at queens on the button. I 3-bet. They're still celebrating and yelling from the previous hand, and then I think his ego got triggered by them. It was like, F these guys, F this guy. Like, I'm not letting him, like, them celebrate again. I'm not going to whatever. He puts a 4-bet in, which I find out later with King Jack, which is very loose. And I'm like, if you got it, you got it. I'm all in with queens. And then he tank folds. And then everyone goes nuts. And
He was all in his head.
But, like, that was for a lot of chips. A 4-bet's no joke. He put, like, 40% of his stack in or something, like a lot of chips. And that catapulted me into really contention further than that day. And yeah, and then that energy carried in onto after dinner break. I got moved into the main feature table, and that's something that I'll get to take away from this experience is like, I didn't make the final table, spoiler alert. But I got to play on the table that was the final table. Right. And I got to play with some big names and some tough pros with the cameras there and the rail there, and like have that experience. And like, I feel like, I didn't win, but I feel like I had the whole experience.
You still had a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was everything. And then just getting those guys, there was one hand in particular where, there was a raise. I'm trying to remember exactly how the hand went.
I'll say this quickly though: if you were watching this and you never knew anything about poker beforehand, I'm sure you just got so much knowledge from listening to this guy.
Getting some info.
Yeah,
research all the stuff that he's talking about.
Right.
It's Googleable.
Right.
You'll be able to
I was
learn
going to
so
say
much.
we could definitely make sure that he gets into the locker room. So if anyone in the locker room in our community, if they look for any poker knowledge or anything like that, you have someone to leave on. I'm sure you
Absolutely.
can. Yeah,
Happy
the locker
to
room would be perfect for
share
something like that.
everything.
100%.
So I remember there was a raise. I think I 3-bet and a guy just called behind. Or did I shove? I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember a little. I just want to get it right.
Just while you're doing that, your recall is amazing. You're literally running through months, if not years,
This was
of
a big
card
hand,
games.
though.
Right. Right. This is like listening to LeBron recall a basketball game and all the different plays and
Absolutely.
where everyone's moving on the court. This is exactly what I was thinking.
I remember what happened now. I raised, a player just called behind who had been kind of loose, and then this guy re-raised from the big blind, who was a good pro I had played with prior on day 6 and earlier on day 7 at a different table. And he was capable. I know he was an aggressive, tough pro. And basically, when I raise and this guy calls, this guy's not going to be that strong that often because of the dynamic. That means he could be raising lighter. I have jacks, and I don't think he's got it. I go all in. And this was for something like 11 million chips. I think I had something like 30 at the time. So this is a good portion of my stack. This guy folds. This guy snap calls, rolls over aces. I go, God damn. And in my heart, I just remember quietly in my mind saying just like, Jack of Hearts. Jack of Hearts.
Yeah.
And the first card in the window peeling out, Jack of Hearts. And the rail goes bonkers. But if you know anything about poker, is you don't count your chickens until they hatch. It's like you wait until the hand's over before celebrating. And this is something I used to be super guilty of, is like pre-celebrating and then losing the hand. And we hold, the rail goes berserk. I go and, say, sorry, it's poker. What can you do? I think it was a good play. He just happened to have it. But that catapulted me again into basically the chip lead on pretty late into day 7 of the main event with maybe like 23 players or something like that left. And it was just surreal. And like that moment, I will remember for the rest of my life. You know, I may have fuddled the beginning of the hand a little bit, but that's not what I remember. I remember
The celebration.
the feeling of seeing the jack, like the anticipation of like, oh God, I'm actually gonna like win this pot, and then going over and celebrating with everybody. And there's some footage of the rail celebrating and seeing Scrum and Blum and just a few of these other guys, just like, I don't think I've ever seen them more emotionally invested in anything
Right.
and the time I've known them. And then seeing them burst into just complete celebration. My friend Jess is on my friend Jesse's shoulders. And they're like, Nick's got a beer. He's fucking like, it's just
The animation over
Yeah.
there was crazy. I remember
Yeah.
seeing those clips over and over and over again.
And
Oh, I love it.
the couple of times I've watched that clip, it just gives me absolute chills. And it's like, this is what we play for. This is what I got into poker for. And, you know, there's a lot of money at stake here, and the pay jumps are really big. But that's not what it was about. It was about that moment. It was about getting to share that with friends. Like I said, I've had some situations where, like, Joey's won a bracelet in 2012, and Seth's had the big final table. Trev's won a bracelet, and like, I've been there before for friends, and it was so surreal to finally have that experience on the other side of it, and something that I had wanted so badly. And I'd almost like at some point kind of written it off because I had started playing cash games. I was like, you know what, tournaments are tough. Maybe that's not my thing. And to have that was so special and so validating as well. And yeah, I feel like that was enough for me. You know, I didn't win the 10 million for first place, but like I got that. And
Absolutely, man. And that was a win enough, right? You know, that sounds like it was
Yeah,
like
and
definitely
then
a
some.
peak
And
of
then
your
some.
career. You know what I mean? It's definitely some high wins.
Absolutely.
You know, talk to me about this real quick, because you started off your career at a very, you know, a trajectory of, you know, top 10 in your first 5 tournaments. You're doing great. Then you run through a little bit of a lull, and now you're back here at this other peak, right? Talk to me about going through that journey, because I know that there's a lot of people that have probably in their normal lives have felt like they were at the best that they could have been, and then they fell to the bottom,
Yeah.
and then they worked their way back through that, right? Like, talk to me about that journey that you were going through to feel where you are right now.
Yeah, you know, I feel like this is something that I think everyone experiences, is that life humbles you in so many different ways, in so many different times, and it can be with your health, it can be with your work, financial, relationship, is your own, you know, your own inner battle and journey. And I have been humbled very many times, and one thing that it's taught me is appreciation. And actually, there's a good friend of mine, Kazu, had this great quote, and he told me this some years ago. Expect nothing, appreciate everything. And that was something that I feel like I really took to heart. And through the dark times and through the difficult times, that has stuck with me. And interestingly enough, so after having some success moving into 510, having some success in 510, after that first year, I hit a rut right around wintertime, where I had a really good year. And then from the months of like November, December, January, February, I had a rough patch, and I had to move back down to 2.5. And it was humbling because I thought I was hot shit and I was getting coaching.
Yeah.
And I was like, and when I moved back to the 2.5, my downswing continued because I had to check my ego. I thought I was above the game. I thought I could just do whatever I want. I could outplay people, but you got to respect the game. And when I had that realization, things kind of changed, and I was able to dig myself out of a huge hole. I was probably in like a $30,000 downswing at that time. And I dug myself all the way out of that hole, dug myself and moved back into 510, moved myself back into profit, was doing well again. And a similar-ish type thing happened, but for different reasons. I think it was just kind of natural variance. And the games were playing really big around that time too, with straddles, multi-straddles, and whatever. Same kind of thing happened right around December, January, February of this year. I had another big downswing, and I was down something like 22,000, whatever, in 4 months. And around that time, my buddy Trevor actually, you know, he works really hard in a lot of different business value venues and stuff. And something that I feel like I'd always struggle with was discipline and not working hard enough, not putting the hours in. And he challenged me. He's like, just grind. Just just grind, put the hours in, and like whatever happens, happens, but at least you'll know you grinded, you know? And like, I was like, you're right. And those couple of months, particularly January and February, I mean, I was playing like 150, 160 hours a month, like full-time work, and losing. And, you know, those 2 months, like January, I started up like 12, 13K. That last 3 weeks, gave it all back. I ended up down like 2 or 3K.
Wow.
And then February, I lost like 7. It was like I worked harder than I'd ever had and put in more hours. And I lost both months, you know, 5K a month. And imagine working full-time, trying your ass off, showing up, working out, like I would show up, or I was trying everything. I would play the early morning schedules. I would wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, start playing at 6 in the morning, play through the day, play the graveyard shift, whatever I had to do, and just losing. Wow. And it was really humbling and really hard, and it kind of made me sort of question myself. And I was going through some other personal stuff at the time, and it was that was really hard. February, after that, I was in a pretty dark place. And in December as well, there was just a couple of things that happened. And it's like, it kind of like, it gives you a reality check. But through those past experiences, where I had been humbled, I had learned a very valuable lesson. And that lesson was, never forget how quickly things can change. Mm-hmm. Never forget how quickly you can go from what seems like the new low, the new rock bottom, to the best place in your life. And it's happened to me so many times that I stood grounded in that fact of like, I know shit's tough right now, but it's going to be all right. And just like pick yourself back up, keep working hard. And then, you know, March, I was like, all right, that's not working right now. Let me do something different. I came back to playing online and actually had some success and was putting in hours and winning. I was like, all right, you still got it. Put some money in my pocket. And then, believe it or not, an opportunity kind of just like fell into my lap where 2 of my friends were starting an online sweepstakes social casino. And I had worked with one of them prior in 21, and they offered me a position as business development manager for this company. And I was like, this doesn't happen every day. This is a cool new opportunity. Poker will always be there, and I'm kind of struggling right now anyway. So, okay. And I had been doing that full time, and that was like end of March, very beginning of April. And from then on, up until the summer, this like last bit of June into July, I had not really played any poker. I played a couple online sessions. And then I played the Monster Stack, which I cashed, which was the middle of June. Played the Colossus a little bit, lost 2 bullets in that. And then the main. And then went on this absurd run. And it's interesting how that works. Like I actually stepped away from poker a little bit and then found the success. And then funny enough, last summer, I had fully committed to playing cash games. I played 2 tournaments last summer, the Monster Stack and the main event. And that Monster Stack, I had up until that point, my deepest run and biggest score in a tournament ever. I took 26th in that 1,500 Monster Stack with 8,000 something runners. And that cash was good for like 45 or 46K. And it was like kind of like indicative to me of like, you can align yourself to different things in life and still also find success in other areas. And, you know, I used to play tournaments and then I moved away from that and then boom. And then same thing this year, I like moved away from cash and then found a new, you know, avenue professionally, but still had that in me. And it honestly kind of put me in a spot where I was coming into it so fresh and so excited because I don't get to play anymore. Or I had chosen not to play anymore.
Sure.
And I came into it with the right energy and the right mindset and the dedication. And I was working out a lot and my health was good. You know, I wasn't, you know, partying so much and just like I was in the right mode to compete in what is a marathon that is the main event. Mm-hmm. You know, 8 days, 12-hour days. You start at noon, you get done at 1 a.m., 1:30. I wasn't falling asleep till 3:34 because I'm wired.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't even realize how much adrenaline my body was pumping these last couple of days. And of the last 4 days, or I guess 3 days, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 days. 2 of those mornings, I woke up on like a few hours of sleep with my heart pounding.
Wow.
And I was just like, I have never experienced that before in life. And that was just like, that means my body was still so wired from the night before that it was still going, waking me up the next morning. I was like, damn.
No,
that's intense.
That's extremely intense, bro.
Yeah.
And that's why I consider you guys athletes. Just the same way that you're after going through a different environment.
Yeah.
It might not be as visible as somebody like Stove, playing on the high levels of professional basketball or an NFL athlete. You can see how physical that is. You could see the emotion, the intensity, and all the different things that go into them just walking onto the field, right? But like we mentioned before, we can feel that when we walked into the room with you, right? So I can just imagine.
It was like walking into a UFC fight.
It really was.
It was. It felt like walking into a cage match.
Absolutely, with no cage, right?
No cage.
Anybody could touch anybody. You can run out the cage, jump into the stands if you wanted to. Anybody could say whatever they wanted. It was a great atmosphere, and like you being able to navigate that in, let's say, the grace that you did to be able to get to the level, it's extremely commendable. And I can just hear like how these different experiences that you've talked about really led into that, whether it was you learning from the other people that were pros, whether it was your upbringing and being able to have a little more centering to who you are as a person versus all the people that you're playing with. All of these things, I can see how it played a part. And we've talked about it on a different episode about the universal principles of success. And it seems like through these different experiences that you've gone through in life, you learned how to succeed and just applied it into what you're playing in the game here to reach this high level of what you're doing. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just what I'm picking up.
You're absolutely right. And it's exactly that. It's the experience from everything that I learned throughout life that allowed me to actually be able to execute in that situation. It's like all the reps you do beforehand, and this isn't just poker reps. Like, this is exposure to life. And I mean, in the poker element, being kind of like playing all these hours, playing in cash, like in the live, like you get really comfortable playing kind of higher stakes. And it's just something that you just learn how to become like comfortable in. But also in that arena, I had some experience coming through with dancing. And one of my greatest passions is shuffling, and shout out to Las Vegas Shufflers. And over the last couple of years, this beautiful community in Vegas has grown. And, it started with a handful of us going out. I had my friends Lance and Liza were really passionate about learning how to shuffle. And this is something I had been doing with some of those same Florida friends, going to EDC, going to music festivals and learning how to dance. But I didn't take it that seriously. It was just something I knew how to do and I was okay at. And then they wanted to actually get good at it, and we would go out together. And every time we would go out dancing, people would come together out of the woodworks and start dancing with us. And my friend Lance, being such a great networker, he would get people's information and connect. And before we knew it, we kind of had a legitimate network. And then the Las Vegas Shufflers were born. He created a chat, and then we created an Instagram. And we would go out dancing together. And, you're not always in the spotlight, but sometimes shuffle circles get created, and this happens at music festivals and whatever. And then you go in the shuffle circle and you show them your stuff, and then the music takes you and you're dancing. And I feel like that really actually helped make me comfortable being kind of in the spotlight, having cameras around, having people around me cheering me on.
Yeah.
And, it took me sometimes, I'm still like, I'm not always so comfortable on the camera. And like, sometimes it's weird. Like, we'll do like shuffle meetups. We'll go to the park and we'll go to places and like people will pull cameras out. I kind of just like being off on my own. I like kind of just dancing in my own space. I don't always like being watched, and that is something that helped get me out of my comfort zone, and it tied into that. And having, and I will also say within that same thing, having the support of your friends and your community and your peers was so massive on so many levels of allowing that comfort. But that also came from, years of connection and then great friendship and all that stuff. And that was for sure the biggest element, the key factor in taking the pressure off of me, is feeling the love and support of the friends that were there and the friends that weren't there, people that were reaching out to me, via text and Instagram and whatever, but just feeling like I had all these people behind me. The people had my back, and that was like, it was so amazing. And I feel like that was my greatest asset and my greatest weapon of that whole thing. And without them, like, thank you guys so much. I love you. None of that would have been possible if it wasn't for you, because I know you were getting in the heads of the
Shout out to the
Yes,
boys.
the other players. Like, I know you were getting in their heads. And like I was saying earlier with the guy who 4-bet the King Jack, and some other guy spazzed off on day 6 to me in a spot where I don't think he would have done that, because we were,
If it wouldn't happen,
table was
if it
right
wasn't.
there on the rail. They were
Yeah.
literally like, I'm sitting here, that guy's sitting there, the table rail is there, and they are where you're sitting, and there was like 10 to 15 people
Yes.
fucking in your face.
At least 100 decibel minimum.
Yeah, being loud. And like they're like, I don't know.
It was
These
nuts
people
over there.
spaz out,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And even, other pros on day 7 and day 8, like I could see that affecting them. And like Kristen Bicknell was like, had her back to the whole rail, and they were going nuts the whole time, even when I wasn't even involved.
Wow.
And I could see her getting like a little emotionally rattled.
No, absolutely.
Like, she held her composure and stuff, but I could see it was like, really, like every minute, every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, like even when I'm not involved, they're just chanting for me. Like, what the f?
They're
is
just
this?
going, man.
And like and then she plays the highest of stakes. She plays like the 300K buy-in, super high roller shit. Like, she is a boss.
Sure.
And an extremely talented player. And it, but you don't get that in those arenas.
Nope.
Because at those super high stakes, people don't have those rails. No. This only happens in WSOP and maybe
The main
WPT. And like, this was a lot. And like, you just don't get reps in. She can study all she wants. All these people can prepare. They can know the hands. But what are you gonna do about these people saying, like, screaming, "Is that what you want?"
Right.
And like, whatever, just screaming in your ear, like, that rattles you.
No,
and
absolutely.
like that it's tough. And this is also one of those things where you got to learn how to deal with the unexpected in different arenas, and in sports in particular, but also in business, where like there can be a lot of unexpected situations that you're going to need to learn how to navigate and know how to handle yourself. And that is life in a nutshell, is expect the unexpected.
Absolutely.
Always. In
Absolutely.
any arena, any walk of life, any trade, any business, whatever, you never know what you're going to get. Right. And be
100%.
ready, and train yourself to be ready, and all those other things that you learn in all different walks of life, your conversations with your parents, conversations with your teachers, interactions you have with people at the grocery stores. Like, there's little things that you can pick up and learn from everybody.
Absolutely.
That can help like teach you to navigate this life better and know how to respond in certain situations.
100%. 100%.
Clip that.
No, absolutely, man. That's going to come to your page at some point, because you're dropping gems, right? And everybody needs to be able to hear what you're saying, right? And quite honestly, one of the things that came to my head, and it's the energy, right? You can feel the different things that are happening with different people, whether it's the crowd, right, giving that energy. That is something that's palatable, right? Even the person who you're going against, she can feel that. Like you were saying, she doesn't have time to have reps going against that type of energy, where you're having to really stay focused in what you plan to do, dealing with this extracurricular energy coming in there, right? Do you think that was something that was beneficial towards you specifically? Like, and do you think that living or having people that live at a high energy around you can help you achieve greater things?
Absolutely. I mean, this is, I feel like, the greatest asset that I have in my life, and this is why, like, I haven't had really money like my whole life. I lived bill to bill through much of my adult poker career. I had some bits of time where I had some money here and there, but I like to have fun. I like to travel. I like to eat.
Yes, sir.
Whenever I make it, I spend it.
There we go.
I'm learning to be a little bit better about that. But the thing that I always held on to is that I am so wealthy. And in my mind, I was like, I felt like I was always rich. Rich in life, rich in friends, rich in experience. And this is the thing that I feel like really helped ground me. And all these experiences is like, this is where it comes from, is the people that are around me, the good people that can help build me up and be there and support me, and like reflect that goodness back at me and give. It's just, I feel like our lives are often the culmination of the people that we surround ourselves with and like the experiences that we
Very
have.
true.
And it's like if you surround yourself with shitty people, you're probably going to have a bad time and you're going to
Absolutely.
go through a lot of bullshit.
Dead on.
And, you know, I've been through that and I've learned those lessons. I've been burned plenty of times, you know, and you learn from that. And something that I've learned in my older years is that there's no room for that in life. And why would I have anybody in my life that is going to cause any harm, problem, doesn't have the best intention for me and themselves, and just surrounding yourself with people that want the best for you.
Absolutely.
And that are also living good lifestyles, that are also trying to work on themselves and grow. And, you know, like Vegas, believe it or not, is an incredible place for that. You think
Yep.
of like, oh, Vegas, gambling, Sin City, all this stuff of luxury and excess, but there are also so many incredible people here, and particularly the spiritual community, the wellness community, and like, you know, shout out to the Wolf Pack. And there's so many people that are doing incredible work with breath work, with doing, you know, like plant medicine work, and they also have been so instrumental in really allowing me to share myself authentically, and not just myself, but all within themselves and within our community and here in Vegas, is opening this door to really like having a quality human experience, you know? And it's like, that's the stuff that is your foundation. This is the stuff that helps you get through the hard times.
Absolutely.
When life throws you all kinds of curveballs and you're struggling, is like, that's what will help hold you up, is having
Right.
good people in your life. And that is
100%.
far and away, for sure, the thing that has helped me still be here and still be alive and have, you know, whatever success I've had. It's my family, my friends, the people around me, the community. Like they are the reason why I am here.
Oh my God,
it's
man.
not even close. That's just what it is.
I love that you said that, because people who are close to me, they've heard me say this, pretty often, but relationship capital is more valuable than financial capital, right? Like how other people say your network is your net worth. That's essentially what I'm saying in that type of conversation. And it's, if you can get great people around you, you'll be able to do so much greater things than just trying to get people who have money or trying to get in different financial situations. If you can just really create a community of great people, your life will be at such a high level that you really aren't going to worry about all the other things that come with quote unquote life. With, the success that you've had recently, it kind of makes me start thinking about different interpersonal relationships that you might have had, right? You've been going on a little bit of a run. You've been doing this gambling for a little while. You've had some success and things like that. And I kind of wanted to ask, with the people that you have around, have you seen an uptick in the different relationships that you might have had with the opposite gender, right? That have maybe been able to pop up as you're getting more noticed, as you're, more in your status play, or is that something that might be down the road? Give me a little insight into that.
Yeah. It's actually, this has been kind of a cool little thing to zoom in on. And this is all pretty fresh. I mean, this happened, 3 weeks ago, maybe less, I don't know. And it's a testament to the quality of people that I have in my life, is that there's been nothing but support, and that nothing has really changed.
Mm-hmm.
No one's asked me for money. No one's trying to get anything from me. They were just genuinely happy for me.
That's
and
awesome.
Nothing but just couldn't be happier for you. I couldn't have happened to a better person, so well deserved, et cetera, things like that.
You deserved it for sure, though.
And I feel like it's coming from a genuine place, and it's not. They don't want anything back from that. It's just genuine support, and this is. I feel like, to me, it makes me so proud for the relationships that I've cultivated. It's this is what shows these are really your friends. These are good people that genuinely want the best for you, that want to build you up, that want to see the world be a better place. And this is the same kind of thing as, with all that, is you're talking about your network is your net worth, and what you can do. There's also who you can help and who you can find meaning from, and the things that can help guide you and others into their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly that. It's just helping people help each other, and like making this world a better, more cohesive place. You know, it's like, this is really what human connection is about. This is what life is about, you know.
Absolutely.
With the outside of just being and existing, just a gift in itself, is working together and creating something great. And like, that's what we should all be working towards, you know, because it helps everybody, and then the world's better for it.
You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. I was going to take it a whole different realm before you started that, you know, your answer, and, you know, start talking about dating and women and all this other stuff. But bro, that was so poignant. That was, I think, even greater than what people needed to hear, quite honestly, is that creating that type of community is what's going to help create the foundation for what you want out of your life. No matter what walk of life you're going through, if you can find the right people that you can connect with, that are going to be able to actually have the joy for you that you have for them, right? Actually support you the way that you support them, the way they can help you be better when you're not even at your best self. If you can have a community like that, you know, the 5 people that you know that are around you like that, your life is going to be so much wealthier than you could ever imagine by trying to put financial aspects towards it. And I appreciate the fact that you were really bringing that up, because I think that's poignant. I think that that's something that a lot of people need to be able to hear, understand, and it doesn't matter if you're coming as a World Series poker player from the featured table, not the finalist table, right? Spoiler alert. Or if you're an athlete, if you're somebody in the business world, if you're a construction worker, it doesn't matter. It's about who do you have around you that is keeping you at the level that you need to be at, right? Have you set your foundation high enough that you can actually achieve the success that you want to? So I'm really glad that you took the conversation that way versus where I was going to take it, because that's so much better. That's awesome, man. And
I mean, you know, it's like about it's about cultivating what you want in life, and through those relationships, but through those things, it's like you're talking about girls and stuff. Is like, you know, I was feeling pretty good these last couple months. Anyone was going out talking to girls, you know, interacting, but it's not about just like, oh, trying to get laid or whatever. It's just about like having quality human connections with people. And I will say, like, yeah, this run, this success, and then some of this money definitely gives me a different level of confidence. Like, you know, I went and kind of like upgraded my car to a car that I had kind of dreamed about. Nothing too fancy. Like, I had a little Subaru before. That was like a little base model, simple. And then I just got like a 23 Subaru Forester. That's something that the nice deep green that I've always wanted. It's just,
there we go.
It makes me feel good.
Yes.
And like, it just gives me that confidence of just like, I am who I am, take it or leave it, like me or don't. And, you know, like, I feel like I have a lot to offer. And if you're not interested, okay, that's, you know,
you're lost. You know, I'm going to keep moving forward with this happy life.
Keep doing me.
Yeah, and it's just, and it's fun. I say, you know, we were out on Saturday, you know, and it was fun just being out there dancing, and just not giving a crap, and then having fun. And then there was a girl that I met towards the end of that night, and, you know, we exchanged information and stuff. And I asked her out earlier today. But it's casual, you know. I'm not. It's just like, I don't know you. Like, let's get to know each other better. I liked your energy. You had a great smile. You were fun. We had a fun interaction. Like, let's go out. Let's see what's
absolutely.
up. And that's exciting to me. And again, with what you were saying earlier, is like, you know, kind of cultivating the right things, and also bringing the right energy into those spaces. Like, if I'm overly flashy or macho or trying to be somebody I'm not, I'm going to attract a certain different type of people that I don't actually want in my life.
100%.
So
Yes,
if, you know, if I keep being myself, and it was funny, I went to yoga earlier, and I had a tank top. It's a Hangover tank top, one of my favorites. And it's Zach Galifianakis from The Hangover.
Yeah.
And it says, it's his quote. It says, "I won't ever change, never ever."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. It doesn't matter whatever happens, whatever. Like, I don't want me to change. And yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to, you know, to always meet new people. You know, we've only fairly recently met, but this is exciting. Like, here we go. This is cool.
No, absolutely.
And,
I'm glad that you were able to come in and hang out with us in here today.
Yeah, and then like, we were having fun at EVC on Saturday.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
You know? Right. It's quality stuff, and that's what it's about. It's like, you know, there's no expectation. Like, it's just weird, just a couple guys hanging out, having a good time, sharing space, and that's enough. It doesn't need to be anything else. And, you know, great.
Right. That's what life should be more about, authentic interactions, not trying to come in and do anything else extra, just really living life, and I'm glad that you're able to say that, especially even bringing in the girls part, right? Because we are going to have an after hours show. We're still going to keep you guys updated when that after hours episode is going to launch, when we have the women coming in. Trust me, you'll know. But one of the things that I'm going to let you go on is really a thing that I've been, bringing up every now and then, how to authentically interact with women. I call it the ABCs of how to interact with women. And if you guys have a different opinion, or if you feel that I'm wrong, feel free to jump on in. But this is something I want to leave with the audience, let them ponder on for a little bit, right? Okay. So it's either an A. I think you described it there perfectly. Auditioning for you, right? You already know you're a great person. You already are doing what you think is great and valuable in life. I feel like we all feel the same way. And when we meet different women, we give them an opportunity to join that life or not. Whether they like to join or not, that's totally on them. No love lost. It's just, here's an opportunity to have this great lifestyle that we can bring you into, right? The B is then business or booty. Let's just keep it real, right? Maybe it's just a fuck buddy, or maybe it's somebody that you could grow something with, that you can maybe accumulate wealth together, right? That's the B level of that. And then there's C, where maybe you guys are just cordial with each other. Nothing develops from it, and you're just able to say hello, hi, and bye, no love lost whatsoever, right? But I think coming in with a frame, understanding that no matter who I interact with, you're going to fall into one of these categories. It makes it that much easier for some guys who might not have the confidence that you might have developed, with your great lifestyle, to be able to interact with women. What are you guys' thoughts on the ABCs of how to interact with women?
Well, I mean, I've never framed it that way, but I really love that you do, because I think in a simpler form, I think that's a pretty accurate way of breaking down, like something with someone you want to grow and potentially like audition for building towards. Mm-hmm. Some business, you're gonna have some fun, and that's okay. That's
absolutely
have needs, and it's okay. And like, it's great to have those interactions just be those interactions. They don't need to have this air of needing to be something else.
Absolutely.
You can have a great connection, have fun, and then go your separate ways. And it doesn't need to be more than that, and that's okay. And then be just being cordial. And then there's people that you just meet that you're like, oh, this is good, fun, fine, whatever. Like,
you can say hi, say what's up.
Yeah, it's like we're friendly, but there's not much explosive chemistry here, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And that actually, I think I am going to actually start implementing that into my approach. Because for what it's worth,
I did that when he introduced me to that a couple weeks ago. I had the same reaction. I was like, wait, hold on, that kind of makes sense. Yeah. I should start looking at it like that a little bit at least.
Yeah, I was just having this a similar conversation with a buddy at lunch earlier today, and we were talking about that of like how often he was saying particularly when there are women that he's really more interested in, that he tends to go a bit slower, tread more cautiously, try to get more information, connect more deeply of like, oh, there's potential for something more here. And then with women that it's kind of more business, booty, whatever, it's just like, I'm just going to kind of fire, say whatever, put it all out there. And then we were like kind of talking about it. It's like, why is that? And I think it kind of comes back to like, are you really that interested? It's like, how much do you really care?
Boom.
And I think that's something that we can apply to a lot of different things. And I think now that you're mentioning that, this is probably a good format to apply to other things in life of like, let's say in business, like, is this something that's something more long-term and serious and real? Mm-hmm. Is this just like a quick buck? Mm-hmm. Or is this just something that we can kind of, have a little bit of a cordial relationship, and maybe something will happen, maybe something won't, but we get along well and whatever.
Absolutely.
And so you can kind of broaden that spectrum, and it's kind of cool to think about in that way. But I think it's good to have some perspective in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that way.
Absolutely.
Definitely agree with that.
It looked like you were about to say something there.
No, I was in all agreement, because it's good to kind of know what you're doing ahead of time, and then kind of know where you are at that time too, because it's not just about walking up to a woman and deciding, oh, is she A, B, or C? It's knowing, am I in the place of my own life to have an A?
Boom.
Or B, to let someone audition or audition myself? Am I in the position to do that?
Absolutely.
Or am I just in the position right now where I just want some booty?
Right.
Yeah. Or am I in a position where, hey, I'm even focused so much on working or building or grinding towards something that everyone's just kind of cordial?
Correct.
Yeah. So it has a lot to do with yourself as well.
Absolutely. And it helps put a frame together so you can actually guide your life with a little more, let's say, direction. You know, so I'm glad that you guys agree on that as well. And, you know, maybe we'll clip that up, be able to give that out to the masses. But that's something you're going to hear me say a lot more. The ABCs, and I like how you said that. Maybe it's just the ABCs of how to interact with your life, right? You can kind of frame it in different things, whether it's something that's really long-term, something that's just for the moment, or something that's really, you know, you're going through in that time. And I really love that. I'm going to take that little tidbit from you, bro. Again, like, I feel like we've been able to get so much knowledge from you. I don't want to take too much more of your time. You know, I want to appreciate and respect what you've done. You've been playing long, like you were saying, just a couple of weeks ago. You've been on a long little journey. We did just have a fun long weekend, so we definitely had a great combo. And I think you left a lot of tidbits for us that we'll be able to peel back. Maybe on a review episode, we'll be able to take it even deeper. But were there any things that you kind of wanted to leave the audience with before we wrapped up today?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll just say is just keep going, keep trying, and you know, don't give up. Because as I was saying earlier, one thing that keeps coming back in life is you will be inevitably surprised how quickly things can change for the better, you know, and just keep going. And one of the things, like specifically just pulling it back to the main event, that was my 10th main event. That was my 10th try. I had never cashed it.
Wow.
There was 10 tries. I was 0-9 up until this year, and then boom.
Boom.
And, you know, just keep your head up, keep going, keep working, keep trying, and do what feels right for you. Follow your passion, and do what excites you. Do what feels right. Like, and then it doesn't even matter what the result is, because you're following your heart. And if what feels good, then you win. You automatically win.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing.
Yes, sir. Let's keep stacking up wins here, guys. That's how you do it. You do it by going after your passion. Do you mind if I call you the Jägermeister?
Yeah, of course.
My man, the Jägermeister gave it to you real. I'm about to break our set behind me because I'm so excited about what he's talking about. But that is exactly real. Go after your passions. Go after what you want, and don't give up. If there's nothing else that you couldn't have taken from this episode, please rewind back those 30 seconds, listen to what he's saying. And, you know, this is right during the Olympics. That's what everybody who is in the Olympics is living off of right now. Right. Every 4 years, they're giving it their all. If you want to be somebody as great as that level, listen to the Jägermeister. All right, so we definitely appreciate you guys coming on in, staying live with us for another episode. We'll be back every Tuesday and Thursday. We've got somebody great coming in every Tuesday or Thursday, or it's literally just us, and we're great as well, right? So if you want more episodes, more things behind the scenes, come on, join us in the locker room. As you guys know, we have the episodes coming up on YouTube, making sure that everything is clean and perfect for everything you want. Maybe some extra sound effects coming in the future. You never know. But keep checking us out. We're going to have a lot of great information and a lot of great, let's say, sauce.